A couple pieces that you're going to need for this sew along is side front, the left fly. You're going to need the right fly, cut 1. The front, you cut 2 of this. The waistband, cut 2 and cut 1 in interfacing. Pocket, cut 2. This is the other pocket, so there's 2 of them. If you notice, they're 2 different types of pockets. This is the coin pocket. You just cut 1. You're going to need the back pattern piece. You cut 2 of this. You're going to need the yoke back, and you cut 2. If you want to make back pockets, then you will cut the back pocket pattern piece. You cut 2. And this is optional. You can do the carriers. You just cut 1 of this. All right, so the first thing you want to do is stitch at 5/8 seam allowance from this dot to this dot, following the curve that you're seeing. Once you're done, you want to cut it as close as possible, but not through the stitching line. So now we just want to trim this excess that we have here. Okay, so now you just want to turn this pocket over like so, just like that. So basically, I'm just going to show you again. So this looked like this. So now you just want to turn it over and press. So once you are done pressing the pocket behind the front pattern piece, now you just want to edge stitch the pocket, and then once you're done with that, you want to top stitch right on the edge. So this is my pocket, and this is my front pattern piece. So what I want to do is make sure that this seam allowance is towards the pocket. So you see this? So I just want to make sure that is to the right. So that means like this. All right. So now what I want to do is stitch about 1/8 of an inch on the pocket. You just want to edge stitch about 1/8 of an inch close to the edge. Now what you want to do is put right sides together of the skirt front. Obviously you want to match all notches. So at 5/8 seam allowance, stopping at the large dot. So now after you have that seam sewn, what you want to do is take that right side of the seam, and at the circle, at that dot, cut to it about not too close to the circle, but close enough. And now you just want to press the seam to the left. Now when you are done pressing the seam, you want to press about 3/8 of an inch on this side of the front skirt. So once you have pressed this 3/8 of an inch, now what you want to do is place your zipper face up, meaning that you can see the zipper teeth in the zipper head is going up and down. You're able to do that. So what you want to do is place it right behind, making sure that the tail is right there at the dot. Make sure you put it as close to the zipper teeth as possible. All you have to do right now is do a basting stitch, which means a long stitch, just at the edge right here. This is just going to keep it in place. All right, so once you are done with your basting stitch with the front of the zipper, now you want to move on to our next pattern piece, and it is the right fly, the number 7. So now what you want to do is stitch right at the bottom, making sure you match your notches. And you want to stitch the bottom of it 5/8 of an inch. You'll know when it's the bottom because when you look at your pattern piece, the notch is higher up top, and then you have the stitching line right here. So that's when you'll know which side to do the stitch right here at the bottom. Everything should look like this. Let me remove this right here. And you should have already stitched the bottom of this pattern piece. Now what you want to do is just trim that excess. I'm just removing the little pieces right here. And now right here in the corner where you see that it's folded, it's on the fold, you just want to cut like at least like on an angle right here. This makes it easy for you to turn it and not have so much bulk. Like this. Make sure you point those corners out. And now you just want to press this with your iron. Baste all the edges, meaning you're using your longest stitch your sewing machine has, and just baste the edges just to keep them in place. So remember, you already sewed this, so you don't have to touch this at all. You're just sewing from this side, the top, down, and that's it. All right, so after you're done basting the edges of your right fly, you want to bring your pattern, your front of the skirt, and looking from the inside of the skirt, which meaning is the wrong side, you want to take your fly front and place it matching your notches, which means you should have a notch right there. So matching that notch and aligning everything together. Make sure you move this side, the left side, over so you don't get confused. So now you're just going to baste this in place, following the same stitching that you did here, which is just right at the edge. Okay, so it should look like this. Now through all thicknesses, meaning through everything right here with the zipper foot, you want to stitch close to this line as possible. What I like to do is remove this black stitch, basting stitch that I have here. It should look like this. All right, so this looks like this was spotting because I just steamed my fabric and there was water in it, so that's why it looks like this. But the next thing that you have to do is take your left fly, and now what you want to do is place the right sides together, matching notches. We're gonna move this over so you don't get confused. Let's place this right here, and let's work on an angle right there. Now you want to place this with notches matching. You should have a dot on this pattern piece marked here. I don't, so I'm just going to quickly do that right now. You want to stitch this at a 5/8 seam allowance, stopping right at that dot. What I'm going to do is cut this seam allowance that is left over, just like so. Just like that. Now what you want to do is understitch the facing, so the seam allowance should be facing the facing side, and just understitch right here close to the edge. So you should have understitched the fly down on your right side when you're facing the right side of the fabric. Now what you want to do is press this with an iron inside, so that way we can move. So that way we can move to our next step. Step is to lap this over the fly with the zipper. So what I like to do is just put a pin here on the edge here and somewhere around the body, just so it can stay still, and you just want to lap it over like so. And what you want to do is go as close as possible to this, but move it a scant of an 1/8, like that. So should look like this. What you want to do is just base this in place, so that way nothing is moving around, but you also want to make sure that the edge here on the top is leveled. It aligns perfectly. Once you're done doing the basting stitch and closing the front together, you want to turn your project to the back, like so. So now what you want to do is pin this away. Okay, and now you want to make sure you're just looking at the left fly with the zipper. All you want to do right now is just base this with a zipper foot. You don't need to get as close as possible right now. We just want to make sure we have something to work with just to keep it temporarily in place. Right, so the next thing you want to do is make sure that you have the right side of the fabric facing you. And now what we're going to do is the stitching line for the left fly here. So basically what you want to do, you should have this already marked. I don't. But what you want to do is copy this line, this stitching line, right on your left side. So I'm just placing this red right with the wrong side of, with the right side of the pattern touching the right side of the fabric. Make sure you align where your notch is so that way you know where the stitching line begins correctly. This is the line right here is your center fold. Right there. Make sure you get everything correctly. All right, here we go. And just copy that line by tracing it. Like so. So the line is right here, very faint enough for me to see it. So facing the wrong side, what you want to do is, so you don't get confused, is place this to the side like this, so that way that's out of the way while you're stitching the line. Now what you want to do is make sure you place this one close, this, so that way everything is aligned and this is not catching this fabric, okay? Just like that. Just stitch this like that, following the line. So after you're done doing your first tracing that line right here, now you want to go another about a 1/4 inch right next to it and stitch another line right here, and it should look like this. Now what you want to do is remove that basting stitch that we did, just to make sure everything is secure and not moving anywhere. Now you want to bring the project to the wrong side and get rid of that. So now it should look like that, like you had that separated, now you have it together. Now what you just want to do is tackle these two together so that way it just doesn't move when you're wearing it. I'm going to do it by using my sewing machine, just a little zigzag station right here, but you can easily hand sew that area yourself. So your front should look something like this with the two stitching right here, and all you have to do when you open it, you see it like that. Everything is secure and you already did your little base tack right there. After you are done, all you want to do is top stitch the center of the front piece all the way down. So with your pocket, you want to fold the top of it a 1/4 inch right here, folding it to the wrong side. After you're done with that, you want to take your right sides together, and you should already marked where your line is, where your folding line is. So you just want to take it and pin it like so. I clipped on my fabric so that way I know exactly where it is. But if you want to mark it with any of your marking tools, that's good too. So now what you want to do is stitch right here at 5/8 seam allowance on both sides. So you have already done this. Should be better at clipping all my threads. So what I like to do is just clip it a little bit right here, so that way we are removing any bulk. Oh, I went a little bit too far there, but you get the deal. So now what you want to do is turn this over. Now what you want to do is bring this line that you already did. This is the basting stitch that we did with a long stitch, and this is our guide to let us know where to fold and press this pocket. So what you want to do right now is follow that line and press it. Okay, so you may need to pin this after you press it. So when you're pressing this, make sure that right here, this corner, you want to fold it diagonal, press it, and then bring the bottom like this. I'm gonna put a pin here so that way it makes it easy to top stitch and it's not moving around. And then you want to take the line right here, the fold line, and bring it over like so. Make sure you're getting where it's pressed, and then pin it over like that. And it should look like a corner like this. You want to follow that same step to the other side. So now what you want to do is top stitch this all the way around. All right, so after you are done doing the upper top of the pocket, you want to pin it to the pocket, the number 3 pattern, and you should have 2 dots here already, so you just want to place it right there like so. So the next thing you want to do is top stitch this really close to this edge, and then do another one 1/4 inch right next to that one. You want to start from the top all the way around here, leaving this opening alone. What I'm going to do is take that pocket, right sides together, and pin this all the way around like so. So we did that. Now you want to do the same thing with the other side. So now what you want to do is stitch this at 5/8 seam allowance. Now you want to take your back pattern piece and your yoke back, and you want to match notches. So you should have a notch here on your back pattern piece and a notch here on the yoke back. Match them together like so, just like that. Now you want to sew at 5/8 seam allowance. After you're done with that, you want to press the seam towards the back yoke. Once you're done putting the back yoke with the back pattern piece on both sides, you want to edge stitch this right here close to your seam as possible, and then do 1/8 away from it top stitching. So the next step that you want to do is take your both back side and place it right sides together, and you want to pin where you see the small dot right here, and make sure you see also double notches right here. So you just want to mark that, pin it together like so. Make sure you align your seams together, because ain't nobody want like seams to look like that. So just make sure everything is aligned together perfectly. So when you're sewing this, you want to use a 5/8 seam allowance all the way up till you reach that dot. So your back should look like this, with your seams pressed towards the right side And and when I say it's the right, here it looks like it's your left, but when you have it, when you wear this skirt on your body, this will be your right side. So you want the seams towards this side, your right side, and your seams should be open right here below the dot. So now what you want to do is create a narrow hem. And by doing that is that you want to take the edge here and fold a quarter. So fold right on that fold and fold it again. So you just want to stitch all the way across from the bottom across here and then down again. So the bottom where the narrow hem is should look like this. And now what you want to do is top edge stitch your seam on the back and also top stitch it right on top of that. So do it as close to that seam and then about a quarter inch away from that. Now what we want to do is stitch the front and the back together, pinning the sides and then sewing them at 5/8 seam allowance. Okay, so now what you want to do is edge stitch the sides of your skirt towards the back. So like for example here, you're just going to go edge stitch this facing the back side of your skirt. All right, so what you want to do next is apply your interfacing to your one of your waistbands and you want to fuse that together. You want to take your other waistband and pin it to your skirt. Your notches like so. I'm gonna unzip this. All right. You just want to, now you want to sew at a 5/8 seam allowance right here following that curve. Once you have stitched your waistband to your skirt, now you want to edge stitch right on the edge here towards the waistband. So right on the waistband, you just want to top stitch right here, edge stitch. All right, so the next thing you want to do is fold this and press at 5/8 seam allowance. Now all you want to do is just trim some of the excess. You want to leave about 3/8 of an inch. Right sides together, you want to pin this waistband with the interfacing to the band that's attached to your skirt. Now what you want to do is stitch this as close as possible to this edge. So right here, what you're going to do is stitch as close to this edge as possible so that way it lines perfectly, and then follow 5/8 of a seam allowance, and right here you just want to go down 5/8. Once you are done with doing the seam, you just want to trim the excess. So just like that. Just gonna remove some of the bulk here. right? Now you just want to press this as neat as possible, and then you can slip stitch this either by hand, or you can use the sewing machine. Now all you have to do is do the buttonhole. I decided to do snaps, so it's just what I had conveniently in my stash, so I chose to do that. Once you're done doing this, all you have to do is do the hem, and then you are done.